There you go.
Well, good evening and welcome. The Manistee Area Racial Justice and Diversity Initiative, also affectionately known as MARJDI, welcomes you to our first Meet MARJDI webinar. And since forming in 2019, MARJDI has engaged the Manistee area in a number of ways to help create an inviting, welcoming, and hopefully safer community for all people. Tonight, we would like to share with you some of the ways that we've gone about that task. One of the first actions that we've taken is to bring a racial justice and diversity initiative resolution to the local governments and to the local chambers. And tonight you'll hear more about that from Dick, our volunteer, Dick Albee. Dick will also give you an update about our welcome signs. Hopefully you have seen our colorful and cheerful welcome signs around businesses all around Manistee County. And so Dick will give you an update about that. Tonight, a highlight of tonight is the introductory to the bystander training intervention. And it's going to be conducted by MARJDI volunteers, Lisa Allen and Bruce Allen. This will be a short training for those times when you find yourself in a position to help prevent or mitigate some potential harm being done to a marginalized person. After the bystander training, Bruce Allen will give us an update on how MARJDI is working with local law enforcement and community mental health to support and develop community policing standards and procedures, including anti-bias training. MARJDI has sponsored and co-sponsored several educational events that volunteers Jean Butterfield and Lisa Allen can fill you in on and where you can plug in. And finally, volunteers Chelsea Harvey and Gerard Grabowski can share with you various ways that you can join our work. And tonight I'd like to start our program with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are on the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary territories and land of the Anishinaabe people. The Anishinaabe people make up the 3 fire council of the Potawatomi, the Ojibwe, and the Odawa. These are the original and contemporary nations of the Great Lakes. We have a big agenda tonight, so let's get going. I'm going to hand it off to you, Dick. Hi, Dick.
Thanks, Jan. Let's talk about MARJDI's resolution for racial justice, inclusion, and diversity. It's our objective to have this resolution passed by all governmental units within the county of Manistee. We want them to not just approve this resolution, but we want them to make it a living document. The basics of the resolution states the governmental unit will not support attacks on, harassment of, or intimidation of individuals that are based on race, color, ethnicity, gender, age, religion, immigration or refugee status, sexual orientation or identity, special physical or mental needs, family status, economic status, or other social identities. To date, this resolution has been passed by the City of Manistee, townships of Arcadia, Dixon, Cleon, and Marilla, Manistee County Chamber of Commerce, the Northwest Alliance of Chamber of Commerce, which includes about 8 counties. However, the following governmental units have not passed the resolution: Manistee County, townships of Bear Lake, Brown, Filer, Manistee, Maple Grove, Norman, Onekama, Pleasanton, Springdale, and Stronach. So if you know of anybody that's on one of these boards that might be willing to help us get the resolution passed, please contact me so I can contact them and let them know that I'll work together with them in order to try to get an approval of their particular governmental unit. The next thing on my agenda are welcome signs, and I think that Jeannie held one up, and I'll hold this one up so everybody can see it. It's our objective to put one of these welcome signs in all businesses and organizations in Manistee County. This has not been an easy task to continue, to convince businesses or organizations to get them displayed. If you know of a concern that does not have a sign displayed, please ask them to do so. If they hear it from enough people, they may have a change of heart. You can get the signs from me or stop in at Jack Pine in downtown Manistee, and they'll have some signs available. But we're going to continue working on this process and continue asking over and over and over until we finally get them in. I think we'll be successful, but it may take a little more time than we originally planned. So with that, let me turn the meeting over to Bruce and Lisa Allen, who are going to talk about bystander intervention. Bruce?
So let me start by saying this is not a training. We're going to tell you what bystander intervention is, some ways to intervene, and more than a few words about safety. There are excellent trainings. ihollaback.org. Lisa has a sign. ihollaback.org has a really good online training. The content that we're going to present today is from the training that they developed.
Can you read this?
No.
Yes. Go ahead, Lisa.
All right, so you're minding your own business, you're running some errands, you're riding a bike or walking down the sidewalk, and you hear angry words, and you see one person angry, another person cowering, trying to get away. You hear racist, homophobic, xenophobic words. You know it's wrong, you know somebody is in trouble, but by the time you figure out what to do, it's over. And you kick yourself for not doing anything more. So let's just say, stop kicking yourself.
So to do the right thing, you need two things. First, you need to see that it's wrong. You got that. You're here, you're listening to this, and congratulate yourself. Not everybody can say that. And the second thing you need to know is you need to know what to do. Doing something is a big deal. Most people who are on the wrong end of harassment find it a horrible experience, and they wish somebody had helped. And very few who have been harassed report that anyone helped them. Being harassed and getting no help intensifies the trauma by a lot.
But if somebody helps, the trauma of the harassment is balanced by the positive memory of somebody stepping up to help. Victims feel less isolated. The message from the experience is that while there are bad people, there are good people too. There are people who care. Knowing that makes healing a lot easier.
So, what to do?
Let's talk about 5 Ds. Thank you, ihollaback.org, who's developed this. The 5 Ds are distract, delegate, document, delay, and direct. So first, we're going to talk about distract. So let's pretend I'm a perpetrator and I say, I hate your socks. Anyone who wears socks like that is icky.
Okay, so we were going to use a sock puppet. We thought that was too far. Please forgive the really silly example. We would prefer not to traumatize anybody. So unfortunately, everybody knows what this sounds like.
Okay, here we go. I hate your socks. Anyone who wears socks like that is icky.
Whoa, whoa. I just spilled my whole Slurpee. Now I'm a cold, disgusting mess. Look at me.
Or another hero could move around to the perpetrator to sit with the victim. Hi, remember me? We met last year at the grocery store. I was the one with the Doritos bags.
This is my favorite intervention because this is the one that comes naturally to me, especially the spilling part. So,
Second D.
I hate your socks. Anyone who wears socks like that is icky.
This is the second D. The second D says the bystander hero enlists the help of anyone within earshot. So help me.
Yes. Or the next is document. I hate your socks. Anyone who wears socks like that is icky.
I'm recording.
Ah, hey, leave her alone. I'm recording this.
Delay. I hate your socks and anyone who wears socks like that.
Oh, so after the perpetrator leaves, you can come over and say, hi, can I sit with you? Can I go with you somewhere? What do you need?
And then there's direct intervention. I hate your socks. Anyone who wears socks like that is icky.
That's enough. Leave him alone. Those are the 5 Ds. But the real point is that to do the right thing in a bad situation, you must be prepared. For some people, it's enough preparation to just think about this in advance and imagine the intervention that you are the most comfortable with. Other people would prefer more time, some discussion about the best ways to intervene, and some practice. Hollaback.org's, right here, online training. They have free online training, and they provide discussion and some practice, and it's easy to get the training, and it's very, very worth it. So I would recommend anybody to go to ihollaback.org and check out their free training, bystander trainings.
Now, some thoughts about safety. You have to choose the intervention that's safe. The world is not made a better place by creating 2 victims out of 1. Remember, it was not safe or possible for bystanders to save George Floyd, but their intervention by filming it made it possible to get justice for the family, and they started a movement. This goes doubly for online harassment. If you see someone being harassed online, Hollaback's recommendation is not to intervene unless you know the perpetrator and you know it is safe to intervene. There are too many things that a perp can do to you online to ruin your life, to risk an intervention unless you know the perpetrator and you know that it's safe. So that is the introduction to intervention or bystander intervention. Be prepared. If you're prepared in advance, I'm always prepared to spill things. So I want to talk about the policing work group. After the George Floyd murder last summer, we started to ask ourselves questions about policing in Manistee. Manistee doesn't have a bad reputation. There have been some complaints in the past about things, how things are handled, but it didn't amount to a bad reputation. But we decided to take a look at the policing in Manistee to minimize the chances of bad things happening. And we want to make sure that Manistee law enforcement is fair, unbiased, and safe. Couple of things, policing is not a hot button topic in Manistee. That's an advantage. And being a small community means, the law enforcement leadership and our community leaders are accessible. That's an advantage too. We believe that, we're more likely to achieve long-term success with quiet, non-confrontational dialogue with law enforcement leaders and doing it quietly helped it, to not become a hot button issue, particularly, when we started this was 2020. So not being a hot button issue is the only way to get anything done. So we formed a working group that has 5 MARJDI folks, and we drafted, redrafted, and adopted a mission statement that contained, the same kinds of items that, dozens of other, police reform efforts included. You can divide our objectives into 2 categories, sort of procedural and policy, and culture and mission. The procedural and policy, no profiling, eliminate chokeholds, introduce a duty to intervene, a duty for other officers seeing wrongdoing to intervene and report. Minimize the use of force and eliminate ICE holds. I should mention the ICE holds thing has gone away. The Biden administration, Biden issued an executive order. ICE is no longer asking for ICE holds. In the culture and the mission, of the police department, our objectives are, to divert substance abuse and mental health issues away from being policing and criminal justice issues, provide anti-bias training for police officers, and generally promote the community policing model rather than the warrior cop model. Once we had, a mission statement, we began to add community leaders. Meg Batzer and Karen Goodman are county commissioners. Karen Goodman is also lead systems developer for Central Wellness, the mental health community presence. Robert Madako, ended up joining our work group. He is the director of public safety, the police chief for the Little River Band of Ottawa Indians. Mick Szymanski, Mayor Pro Tem, Manistee City Council member. We have, our 5 MARJDI members: Dick Albee, Chuck DeManaway, Al Fry, Gerard Grabowski, and Jan Shireman. And, we've had extensive, long conversations about the process and getting advice from Judge Thompson, who is our senior advisor. So we started discussions with Sheriff Gutowski and Chief Glass in January of this year. We completed meetings regarding our work group objectives and a session to identify what MARJDI could do for law enforcement to help accomplish our objectives. And we completed those meetings in early May. There are 2 work group products that are in progress. We're producing an interim report on policing in Manistee, and we're assisting the Manistee Police and the Sheriff's Department with anti-bias training. We are going to continue to partner with Chief Glass and Sheriff Gutowski on training and other issues this year and hopefully into the foreseeable future. A couple of notes on the outcomes of this process so far. We believe the police chief and the sheriff, they're new to their jobs, but they're enthusiastic and they have been willing partners in this effort. They seem to fully embrace the vision of policing that's fair, unbiased, and impartial. They're committed to the community policing model. They want our help with anti-bias training. And so that's why we're going to provide, that help. We'll have a fun, you know, that their chosen model is train the trainer. They'd like to have a training officer in each department responsible for that skill, that anti-bias skill, and making sure that every officer has it. We're working on getting that for them. You know, there are a couple of, you know, really important cultural things that we have noticed, you know, about them that makes us very happy. They seem very willing to engage with Central Wellness, the mental health community, to get help with mental health issues. They're fully on board with treating substance abuse and alcoholism as public health issues rather than as criminal issues. And you know, probably the most important thing from our perspective is we didn't have to ask for one of the reforms to be used body cameras. They already had them, and they use them, and they integrate them into the way that they manage the department. They review a lot of video with officers, whether or not there's a complaint, as a part of the HR personnel management process. So from the MARJDI community, we need help with this. If you have an issue, positive, negative, or neutral, please contact Sheriff Gutowski or Chief Glass directly. They want to hear from you. And we believe that the more they hear from our community, the more real we become, and the more our concerns and issues become integrated with their vision of community policing. You know, this is how we participate in community policing, and you know, the policing working group or any of us would be happy to help if there are issues that you'd like our help with, or to participate with the sheriff and the police chief. And with that, I will pass this off to Lisa.
Your lovely wife.
Lisa, my lovely wife, Lisa.
Thank you. Okay, my turn. And my turn, I'm going to be talking about the MARJDI educational events. Since our inception in September of 2019, MARJDI has initiated and/or collaborated on many educational activities. Our first educational webinar took place on Zoom on June 16th, 2020. This webinar was called Working for Racial and Social Justice in Northern Michigan. And we gave listeners some examples of racial injustices that are already here, as we heard from local residents about racial incidents on the beaches and in town, at local businesses, and at the Little Free Library here. We also heard from the cultural director of the Little River Band of Ottawa Indians, who gave us perspective on the history of injustices against the largest minority population here in Manistee, the Anishinaabe people of the Little River Band of Ottawa Indians. We also heard the saga of the development and passing of the city's resolution for racial justice, inclusion, and diversity, which Dick outlined earlier. And we learned about the educational initiatives of diversity advocates to our near north in Traverse City. We followed that program with another educational webinar on November 19th, 2020, during Native American Heritage Month. The Zoom event was called Celebrating Native American Heritage and Culture, and it brought us some basic history and elements of the language and the culture of the Anishinaabe people here in our region, as presented by Jay Sam and Kenny Pheasant from the Historic Preservation Division of the Little River Band of Ottawa Indians. And we thank them. That was a wonderful program. Next, we had celebration of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So in celebration, in January 2021, MARJDI partnered with the Manistee News Advocate and local schools to present local young voices who wrote about the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. and its effect on their lives. And that was in the paper, which was a wonderful series of events. Next, our educational endeavors continued as one of our founding members, Shirley Madden, then produced a series of articles in the News Advocate during Black History Month in February 2021. Her articles highlighted local and Midwestern Black Americans, both past and present, whose lives and contributions are not widely known and mostly ignored. As we continue to work on issues of justice and inclusion, we continue the work to affirm the contributions and lift up the voices of others in our community who are often forgotten by the majority culture. This month, in honor of Gay Pride Month, we collaborated with the local chapter of PFLAG, Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, to present an educational Zoom called Meet Your LGBT Neighbors, featuring the voices and stories of local people from that community. So the work continues. We are also working with the Little River Band in collaboration with the Ramsdale Regional Center for the Arts on a First American Artist Art Gallery show coming in November 2021. There are a bunch of other educational activities and avenues yet to explore, and we will continue our efforts to bring awareness of diversity and inclusion issues to our community through possible collaborations with the Vogue Theater and West Shore Community College, and hopefully others. If anybody has any interest in helping with any cultural or educational events, please feel free to contact MARJDI on our Facebook page. I think that's the best way to get us, right? So thank you all, and look for us whenever you can. We're around. And now I'm going to pass off to Jean Butterfield, who's going to talk a little bit more about some educational programming we helped with.
So thanks, Lisa. We are looking ahead to the coming year and trying to build on the foundation we set in the past year. And we're hoping very much that we can go to in-person events rather than Zoom. I think we're all kind of burned out on virtual meetings and events. So the programs we are designing will hopefully provide forums with a keynote speaker and or a film and a panel of people reflecting and responding and community discussion. And we're hoping to schedule these events in a variety of locations in town, the new West Shore Community College building for one, and the Vogue Theater now that it is reopened. And we're looking at a September, November, February, April, June array of 5 educational events. Starting off with another program on understanding racial justice. What is institutional racism? How is it played out in our community? We've built some good ties with our friends and neighbors, as Lisa said, to the north, at Title Track and at Northern Michigan E3, and people in both of those organizations have been very generous with their time and expertise and leadership, and we hope to collaborate and involve them in that program in September. November, we want to build and expand our efforts around Native American Heritage Month. You know that there have been a lot of news articles of late talking about the tragedy, the cultural erasure, the violence, the murder of kids, Native American kids, in Indian boarding schools. And the British Columbia example kind of hit the press the last couple of weeks, but we have right in our own area of Northern Michigan in Mount Pleasant, in Harbor Springs, examples of 2 different Indian boarding schools where there have been similar programs of genocide. And we hope to have speakers from those communities come and help us do a program on some of those issues in November. In February, we want to build on our Black American, African American History Month programming. And again, lift up the voices and experience and history of some of our own African-American Manistee area residents, their contributions, their perspectives, and also take a look at what has been a history of violence and lynching in our state, and kind of draw some of those connections. Next April, we're hoping to do a community forum and a kind of a speak out on making Manistee a more welcoming and safe and inclusive community, where we involve civic and business leaders and members of the community coming together to talk together about what our experience has been and how we can improve. And in June, we hope again to collaborate with PFLAG and present another program on LGBTQ plus members of our community. So that's what we've got in store in the months ahead. And we hope, as Lisa said, you will contact us with your ideas and suggestions. We want our programming to be responsive to the needs of our community. I'm going to now ask Gerard to talk to us about how you all can get involved and participate with us, and what kind of support we are trying to build out. Gerard.
Thank you, Jean, and thanks Lisa and Bruce and Dick and everyone who's here tonight, and for all of those who are watching it live, and for the many of you who might watch this as a recording. I'm amazed at the last 40 minutes of what this group just covered that they're doing. I mean, I cannot think of a single organization in Northern Michigan that is taking on this type of a task. And besides E3, and my wife is poking me here, there are a couple of organizations, but none certainly in my nearly 40 years in Manistee County have tried so much in so short of a time in our county specifically. And when Jan and I joined last spring, we were really amazed at both the process and the quick progress. Of course, a lot of people are coming to a new realization about our place in society and how it is we treat others. But I'm just really grateful that this group has started and that we were able to join, and we encourage you on whatever level you can to join or contribute to do so. And if it doesn't mean you can show up to meetings or work on these different things, then it means you can donate money, because this group remarkably is all volunteer. And just listening to all the things they've done, you would think that both the Koch brothers and George Soros had been funding this group for the last year, but that isn't true. There's been only volunteer efforts, no one is paid. And so we have wonderfully hooked up with the Manistee County Community Foundation, also known as the Manistee Foundation.org. And at the ManisteeFoundation.org site, you can go, and I put it in the chat, and I'll tell it to you here how to do it. You go to the Give Online tab on the homepage, and then right below that, you'll get the next page, and it says List of Funds. There's a number of funds that the foundation is the fiduciary for, that takes donations for. All you do is go to the A through Z bar at the top and press M, and then you'll see MARJDI. And you can give a reoccurring gift, $10 a month. You can give a one-time gift, but tell your friends about it. One of the things we've noticed of those who have given so far is that 75% of them don't even live in Manistee County. They aren't even going to directly benefit from the work we're doing, but they support that work from afar. So if you know someone who likes Manistee County, if you know someone, certainly who lives here and wants to see it a better place, please tell them that this group is deserved of a donation, because none of this work, if we can't fund the anti-bias trainers without money. And the police forces clearly don't have that money for training. It's shocking to learn how little they are allocated for training. So we need to step up and put our mouth and our money where our mouth is. So I really encourage you, if you can't directly involve with us, to tell friends about us, ManisteeFoundation.org. And we're real grateful that you tuned into this either live or by a recording. And thank you for your time.
So I think that wraps it up for the night. And we're really grateful that everyone who came. And don't forget to look in the chat. And if you don't know what the chat is, it's that little box on the bottom of your screen that has a little bubble. And you can click on that and that will show some websites to go to and other information. So if you, and you can also save the chat if you want to. There's 3 little dots on the side, on the very bottom, those 3 little dots. If you click on that, that saves the chat for later. Or if you just click on the chat now, it will get on your screen and then you can save it for later. Okay, so I think we're wrapping it up. Does anybody have anything else they would like to say? Any of the MARJDI volunteers have anything else?
Thank you all for attending.
Okay.
Are you-
Thanks so much for being here tonight.
Hey, the dog showed up.
My
Dog's
dogs are
going off.
here.
Sorry.
Just in time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Bye.